what is the best way to share the gospel with a Muslim? Well, I believe something that is critical if we want to be effective in sharing the gospel is to understand the similarities and the differences between Islamic theology and Christian theology. And fortunately, I'm joined today by Abdu Murray, who's going to help us understand some of those differences. Abdu, you were a former Muslim and converted to Christianity. You now head up a ministry called Embrace the Truth International, a ministry devoted to sharing the truth of the gospel with non-believers, including Muslims. You have a BA in psychology and a Doctor of Jurisprudence from the University of Michigan. And we've been talking a little bit about, again, some of the differences and the similarities between Christianity and Islam. One of those differences has to do with how we understand the means towards salvation. So help us understand the differences in how salvation is attained in Islam versus Christianity.
Well, this is, of course, the key issue, because what's the point of being a Christian if there's nothing at the end of the road, so to speak, that tells us the meaning and purpose of our lives? And Muslims have the same struggle with Islam as well. In Islam, salvation is by no means certain. It very much depends on who you are and your works. Now, that's always coupled with God's mercy. In fact, as I said before in a previous episode, one of the most common names for God is He's Ar-Rahim. He is the merciful one. So His mercy is very important in Islam because we do mess up, either intentionally or unintentionally. And sin is a pretty serious issue in Islam as well. So we need to make up for that sin, but we're the ones who do it. The Quran is specific about at the end of time, we will stand before God in judgment, and our scale, our sort of heavenly scale, will be weighed. And our good deeds must outweigh our bad deeds. For those whose scale is heavy on the good, heaven is their abode. And for those whose scale is light on the good, hell is where they're going. But God, of course, can, because He has ultimate sovereignty, can decide, based on whatever He feels like, to send you to. So there's no real certainty in Islam. Now, again, you have to earn it. You have to earn His mercy, which, of course, is a problem, because earning mercy is contradictory in some sense, because mercy is that which you don't deserve. But earning it means you do deserve it, so you can't have both. The difference, of course, in Christianity is that we recognize, like Muslims, that there is an inherent problem with humanity. There is a sin problem. Now, Muslims don't believe in original sin, but they do believe that human beings will act sinfully. They also say that there's no savior. There's no one who will save us from ourselves, that we can be our own solution, so to speak. Christianity recognizes that if we're the problem, we can't be the solution. We're the problem. We need someone who's not us to save us from us. And that's who Christ actually is. He is the second person of the Trinity who becomes incarnate in the Son of God, who is Jesus, who walks around sharing a divine and human nature, who takes on the sin of the world, having no burdens of His own to bear. He bears them for us and pays the penalty that we simply cannot pay unless we want to end up separated from God. And He's the one who pays the penalty for us. So the differences are pretty stark. One has to be a works-based system, and the other one is a grace-based system that says that someone else has done it for us.
You know, I would think that this would be a very critical point of discussion when sharing the gospel with a Muslim. And the reason I say that is because my father was a Muslim, and I saw him die. I was by his bedside as he died, but I saw him die, again, as a Muslim, and watched him go through a protracted decline in his health. And in the latter days of his life, he was absolutely agonized. And part of that was essentially my conversion to Christianity. I mean, he told me that my greatest failure as a father is that you converted to Christianity. And my mom would tell me that he would have these dreams where his father was coming to him and was angry with him because I converted to Christianity. But he was literally tortured by that failing, and I think was deeply concerned what was going to be his fate as a result of that. And so I saw firsthand just how that uncertainty plays out in the end of life. And I would think that this would be a very powerful point to bring up with a Muslim, not in an argumentative way, but really in a pastoral way as you engage a Muslim.
Absolutely. You know, that uncertainty, that can eat at you, because all of us, you know, we all have issues that keep us awake at night. No matter how well we've lived our lives, there are some things that keep us awake at night. And that's why Jesus says that his yoke is easy and his burden is light. There is a yoke and there is a burden, but it's light. And he's the one who takes it for us. And if that's the case, there's got to be some measure of comfort there. There is the intellectual, but there's also the existential. And the existential part really is, what has God done for us? What is true mercy? What is utter and great and magnificent mercy? It is to take the burden from us, to have us pass into the next world knowing that we have that salvation because God is the only one who can provide it. And we can't. We know this empirically. We know this. It's interesting because when you look at Imam Ali was revered by Shiites all over the world, but also a very important figure throughout Islam. And he wrote a series of sermons, and he makes an interesting statement. He says, among the believers there are three. There are those who worship God to attain his favor. That is the worship of the merchants. There are those who worship God to avoid his hell, out of fear, and that is the worship of a slave. But there are those who worship God out of gratitude. That is the worship of free and noble men. Well, the third person is a Christian. He didn't mean to say that, of course, but that's the reality, is that if we worship God out of a gratitude for the salvation that we have, all the good works we do, sure, we store up treasures for ourselves in heaven, but those are expressions or offerings to God in gratitude, not so that we can get salvation, because we already have it.